Don't ask questions. Just don't even ask. We're live? Assume it happened.
Yeah, we're live. Good evening, everyone. We are at the Finance Committee meeting of the school board. We're going to call the meeting to order. Can we have an approval of the agenda, please?
Motion.
Okay, agenda approved. We're going to now move to the consent agenda. Can we have approval of the consent agenda?
Motion.
And can we have an approval of the minutes from March 9th, 2022?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Now we'll start with our reports on contracts. This is item 5. The first contract is Latinos for Education.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
So the Latinos for Education organization develops, places, and connects essential Latino leadership in the education sector while mobilizing Latino voices to promote practices and policies that remove barriers to equitable educational opportunities. So this is professional development, and it's towards retaining our teachers of color and building an ecosystem of Latino leaders within education who will have a voice, leadership roles, and a community of peers who are invested in ensuring educational equity is achieved for Latino students and families. So there are 2 programs that are available here. One is for aspiring Latino leadership fellows, and the other one is for Latinx teachers. And the difference here is one is a 9-month program for the aspiring Latino leaders, and then the other one is a summer commitment for the Latinx teaching fellowships. Since 2019, we ran some quick data. PPSD has hired 557 teachers, of which 74 identified as Hispanic. Of that number, we have retained 57 of them. So this is another opportunity for us to retain those 57 with professional development opportunities that will allow them to grow, connect with their peers, and also bring that back to the district here. Let's see. So the overall cost, so we will be supporting, we're hoping 20 folks who will go through the fellowship, and then the overall cost is $40,000.
It's shared between PPSD, and they're also fundraising.
I'm sorry.
And that cost per fellow is shared between PPSD, and then the
Yes.
organization is also fundraising to make up the
Yes,
difference, correct?
correct. And then we will have an internal application and selection process within PPSD for those folks, and part of the requirement is that they commit a minimum of 2 years beyond the completion time.
What questions do we have?
Well, I first want to say I'm so glad the district brought you on, Miss Cynthia. I do my research on you, and you are great in the community. So I am excited that you are on. My only thing with this is I am gonna vote to approve it, but I wish we could have gotten more educators. What's towards like the 5 to 10? I want more like 20 to 30 to go through with this program. Is there a way we can look into getting more educators a part of this program and bringing on more?
Absolutely. We're hoping that after the first year, we get some data,
Okay.
and then we can continue to expand that. They're coming to Rhode Island because of us, and so they're excited to expand that to the
Okay,
capacity that we can serve.
absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
No question.
Thank
And this is an existing program in Massachusetts and some other states, and they've seen success in retaining teachers. That's why we're looking at this program. Do we have any further questions? I have a motion to
Motion. I'll second. Item has passed.
Moving on, the Teach for America contract.
All right, everybody, I'm Gina. Just going to share a little bit about Teach for America. I know we've used them in the past, but just to kind of give an overview. So TFA is an organization that recruits and selects college graduates from top universities around the United States to serve as teachers. So the selected members are known as core members, and they typically serve for at least 2 years in a K-12 school across low-income communities in the United States. So over the past 12 years, TFA has partnered with the Providence Public Schools and has yielded enduring results. Each year, about 40 PPSD classroom teachers around 2.75% of the total workforce are TFA alumni. In addition, TFA teachers account for about 10% of the district's new teachers each year. And for the 22-23 school year, 16 TFA members would be expected to stay on for a second year, and TFA would be projecting to bring in about 15 to 20 new core members for next year too. TFA teachers are also more diverse than other external hires, with the caveat that new teachers in general tend to be more diverse than more experienced teachers. They're also concentrated mostly in middle and high school STEM and ESL roles, which are difficult to staff. And with our current action plan, we're calling to increase the percentage of fully staffed classrooms at the beginning of the year to 98%. And so with that, we need to hire roughly about 150 external candidates into the district. And so by partnering with TFA, we have the potential to recruit, retain, and support up to 50 candidates from neighborhood schools. And it's $10,000 per teacher, and that helps TFA to cover a percentage of the cost of recruiting, training, and supporting the regional candidates. So for clarity, the 50 candidates would include roughly 16 TFA members who will move from the current year cohort to the second year cohort, anticipating some attrition, and then any new people that are hired for TFA in the following year, which are projected to be around 15 to 20. All right, happy to answer any questions on any of that as well.
Do we have the like sort of like a retention rate for after the 2 years on how many staff members actually stay? Because it kind of seems like it's sort of like a quick fix, but then after a little bit after they all branch out. So.
Definitely, yeah. So I wrote a little bit about this. So very few TFA teachers leave the district after their first year, but the 3-year retention is a little bit lower compared to non-TFA teachers who stay. But in recent conversations with TFA, we have been talking with them about their current second year cohort, and they are projecting 75% of the current cohort to stay on for a third year, which is better than in past years, but they are having like basically stay conversations with them right now, because I did ask them about that in the past as well.
And that retention rate is higher than our typical new hires that are non-TFA?
Yes, for next year, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just I'm one of the new board members. I just want to say, I don't know if I caught you mentioned that we participate in the TFA program over the years.
Yep, for the past 12 years we participated with TFA.
But is it like how many teachers were you able to get to the programs?
Yeah, so from looking back, so every year we've had about like 40 classroom teachers that are like a part of TFA, like within each year. And it's changed a little bit, from year to year, but I was looking at data from the past like 6 or 7 years to come to that number.
Really quick, it also says on, I don't have the page. Where was that? I think it's the second page. Yes, it is. It says that TFA has 12 years of experience in Rhode Island providing services described in the RFP and yielding enduring results of only, a little bit more than 37 current teachers, 10 like about 40-something educators.
Yeah.
So these are the current results of how many educators we currently have in the district from the past 12 years?
That's in the current, so right now we have about like 40 classroom teachers that are from TFA, like in the district this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or no, sorry. It would include the TFA alumni, which we also have a portion of, so that number would include that as well.
Okay.
Gina, you said that we need to hire 150.
So projecting it, right? So like right now, we would need to bring in probably somewhere between 120 and 150, but I'm again predicting that there's going to be some amount of like attrition. So we're trying to project, okay, we need this many external hires in the district to make up that number. And TFA is a portion of that, right? Because they're guaranteeing to some extent like this many educators. And granted, their numbers are a little bit down this year, just kind of given everything that's going on, but that helps, make that a little bit better for us to have those guaranteed teachers in the district.
And do we offer contracts with some redundancy, thinking that there's going to be some loss of, some people are going to exit the district in, early September or in August, or do we hire for the exact amount that we need?
No, we're trying to overhire if we can, because we expect some of that. So we're doing a lot right now to figure out how we can overhire a little bit, because we're expecting that to happen.
And and TFA, according to like some of the research I did there,
Yeah.
they're high on like bringing in educators of color. So in the past, because I know we've struggled with bringing in educators
Yeah.
of color.
Yep.
How exactly do we
Yep.
approach that with this program?
Yeah, I mean, so, and this is what I was looking at. So, TFA teachers are typically more diverse than our other external hires. But the thing that I was mentioning before, the caveat is that our new teachers in general tend to be more diverse than experienced teachers. So it's part of that too. But they do tend to be more diverse, which is good. And I tried to verify that research with some of our partners to make sure that was coming out through different studies.
So I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna end up voting to approve the contract.
Yeah.
But if we can make sure that when we approve this contract, because it's for $500,000, if we can really make sure we speak with them to try to make sure our educators, we're actually retaining them after the 2 years, but then not only that, we're bringing in a little bit more educators of color. I think that it could be a great program. I know that's something that I believe
Yep.
has been in the district for the past 12 years. So if that's something we could improve on, I will have no problem with approving it every year. So that's my only concerns with it, but I'm going to vote to definitely approve it.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate that.
Do you have any further questions? No. We have a motion.
Motion. A second.
Motion passed. Thank you. Appreciate it. And now we have a budget update.
So that's actually going to be a presentation, so I don't know if I should have hopped in when we were approving the check. Snuck in there in the middle, so I don't think
we
it's,
can pull the
yeah, if it's
contract
possible to do
items
that
ahead.
after.
Can I have a motion to move items? Hold on. Al, make sure to tell me if I'm doing this wrong. Can I have a motion to pull items 8, 9, and 10 up before item 7 of the
Motion.
report on contract?
Motion. A second.
Okay, great.
Are we going to get it on the big screen as well?
I have handouts for everyone.
Oh, okay, good. Okay. No, it's okay if you don't need to, if you don't want to.
Whatever folks want.
We'll go to item 8, Amplify Education.
All right, so I am here. My name is Emily Lysat. I'm the new science supervisor. I started in December in the role, and very quickly was tasked with figuring out what we wanted to bring in for our next year's science curriculum. And so we have settled on Amplify, which is what we're presenting to you today. It's a contract that we're hoping to use ESSER money to fund, and the budget that you should have in front of you includes all the materials that classrooms and students and teachers would need.
Did
you
you
send the
did you
extra?
see it?
I did not.
Yeah. Attached here. Did not make it into.
Yes.
I have it pulled up if it's.
Maybe, can we print that out real quick? And then, I don't know if you want to do your presentation now and we'll wait till approve until we have a chance to review the printouts.
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
So the quote that you will see is for anything student and teacher facing, so it doesn't include anything like professional development, because our hope is by putting it out earlier in the finance process, we can get these materials ordered and in classrooms before the school year starts and avoid any kind of issues with shipping or anything like that. And so we went through the RFP process. An RFP was posted before I came on, asking for K through 12 science resources to be provided for the district. And we looked at a couple different options. We reviewed the proposals that they had set forth, and then we also did some meetings where we included administrators and teachers, as well as myself and the director of teaching and learning, Matthew Joseph. And from that process, we settled on Amplify Learning. It's a new curriculum out of the Lawrence Hall of Science, affiliated with UC Berkeley. And we picked it because of its many different reasons. One being that we were really following like the legislation that's come out saying we need high quality, rigorous materials by 2025 in the district. And this really stood out because its 6 through 8 curriculum is rated green on Ed Reports. It's the only science curriculum material that has achieved that rating so far. And when we dug deeper into the resources, it was really because it focuses on the 3 domains of the NGSS standards. So all students in Rhode Island are tested on the next generation science standards, and they have 3 components. They have disciplinary core ideas, they have the science and engineering practices, and then they have cross-cutting concepts. And this curriculum adequately assesses and teaches all 3 of those buckets. in a way that we weren't able to see in a lot of the other curriculums. Yeah, those are kind of the big things. We also were able to work with them to make sure that we get all the materials we needed for our dual language programs. So they've actually rewritten the materials in Spanish instead of just translating the English materials into Spanish, which we found really exciting as we have an ever expanding program of dual language across our K through 8. So these materials are they price the same way K through 5, and then they have a different pricing model 6 through 8. But it would also mean that students have a cohesive experience when they go from their 5th grade to their 6th grade classroom.
Was there a rating given, what is it called, teacher reports about the quality of the K through 5?
Yeah, so it didn't get the green rating the same way that the 6 through 8 did. It had one area in testing where it didn't feel like it adequately assessed all 3. The company was able to speak to that, and they resubmitted for this year. So we're waiting for June for them to be confirmed as a green status. But we worked with RIDE as well, and everything's pointing to it being green in that department as well.
And there's benefits in the continuity offer to kids.
Yeah, our K through 5 science program has not had a solid curriculum for a little while. So I was a high school teacher in the district and a middle school administrator, so I knew the 6 through 12 landscape pretty well. But coming in and really assessing where our elementary schools are at, it's very different school by school and even grade by grade based on teachers that feel they have the confidence in the materials. So we really want something that is consistent across all schools and will transition easily from elementary to middle.
And can you talk us through the full quote?
Lindsay is printing out
Lindsay's
pages
printing out, okay.
1 to 8
Great,
right now.
Great. And I'm sorry that
So what do
I
you-
did not catch that earlier, that I should have caught that. My apologies.
I can talk through what the materials are for each grade band or for the 2 bands. So K through 5, we're purchasing in English, we're going to purchase student notebooks, teacher licenses, English classroom kits, teacher print resources, and those are all the English materials. So every student in the district is getting a set of English materials. And then for our dual language programs and our a portion of our MLL students, we're getting Spanish versions of the student notebooks, Spanish classroom kits if it's a dual language class, and Spanish teacher licenses as well. So that's for K through 5. They do it kind of by teacher license, but then when you get to the 6 through 8, they do it by individual student license. So it's more of a classroom model K through 5 and more of an individual student model for their pricing 6 through 8. In English for 6 through 8, we've been quoted for student digital licenses, classroom kits, student notebooks, and teacher physical guides. And then in Spanish, for our dual language classrooms and our portion of our MLL students, we're doing Spanish classroom kits, student notebooks, and student digital licenses.
And this is a 1-year contract from ESSER funds.
Yes. And a lot of these
Appreciate it.
These materials are mixed, so things like the student notebooks are consumables that would need to be repurchased by the schools in the following year. It should be noted that anything consumable can also be done entirely digitally. This year, we're going to propose to order it physically and then let the schools decide if they want to go fully remote. That may make sense for some of our 6 through 8 students. But the classroom kits are not all consumable. So some of these classroom kits, they have lab materials, and once you purchase them, you don't need to repurchase year after year because they get reused.
I'm really happy to see that we have this robust science curriculum coming. As a parent of a 4th grader, I can say that there's been a lot of variation in how every individual teacher teaches the science curriculum. So it's exciting to see this, and I'm happy that you did such a vetting process with the teachers and with RIDE.
The teachers were really excited as well to have something concrete, and hands-on was a big thing they all wanted.
Is there a similar science curriculum for all the high schools?
So, no. And the part of the reason of that is there's just not anything as high quality for the high schools as of yet. So we did the same vetting process, and we hope to later propose something as an extra additional resource for high school. But no, there's nothing that's coming up green on ed reports yet. So it's a
So, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
So this curriculum stops at the 8th grade?
Yeah.
Okay.
it's a gap in the market. So I'm assuming that more people are going to start putting more things out because it's a requirement now for us for 2025 to have this material, and yet there's no options really to choose from on ed reports.
I'm sorry.
No, good.
What other districts use this curriculum? Do you know?
So North Providence has gone K through 8 this year. They've actually done it, whereas Tiverton and there's one I'm forgetting is going K through 8 for next year.
Okay.
Are there any further questions?
No,
Do school board members feel they had enough time to review the material, or do you want to?
I did.
Can I have a motion?
Motion. A second.
Motion to approve. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And now we have the handshake contract.
Hey everyone, my name is Jackie. Very nice to meet you all. Thank you for having me tonight. So we're going to review Handshake. Handshake is an online tool that colleges and universities use to help power their campuses in terms of their events, their career postings, where their students find their co-ops and internships, and really where employers make an impact to their students as the employer brand, but also as a next step for employment. The Handshake portal itself allows you to post your jobs. It allows you to create your career events, attend career events that the colleges and universities host. And that's kind of at that basic level. With this request for purchasing the platform, it also gives us additional process to purchase the talent engagement suite, which includes Insights. So Insights allows us to have specific targeted campaigns that we can run to attract, to get more exposure to help really funnel our pipeline. So when we think about our current pipeline and what recruitment pipeline looks like, it's very much like a standard pipeline. Right now, where we're focusing the most of our recruitment is kind of in that middle to lower end, which is our more experience. So we think of that as like 7+ years. We're missing probably about between 9 to 10 million students that we're not accessing across all demographics, and those are what's considered in the mouth of the funnel, which is early college grads, so from 0 to 6 years. So when we think about 0 years at 0 at graduation, then plus 6 years, so 6 years within their career. So our focus right now in Providence is probably the middle of the funnel. So we're missing that core group. What Handshake does is it right now currently employs 42% of that top of that funnel. So the 0 to 6 years, that's where college grads and recent college grads and alumni are getting their positions from. The talent engagement suite also allows us to really market and target for core groups that we're looking to seek employment that we're currently missing out on. So whether it's they're not following on our social channels, or we're not really impacting them with our employer strategies, how can we get a broader viewpoint? And Insights allows us to do that. The other thing that it also allows us to do with the school spotlight, School Explorer, is it allows us to have more targeted conversations with schools that make sense. So Handshake right now is the platform for 215 HBCUs. So when we think about really engaging with our historically Black colleges and universities, Handshake gives us direct access into having that broader conversation, and to really kind of showcase what we have here in Providence and build out that brand to a much different level. So a lot of the platforms that we're using right now, we don't have a data-driven or targeted approach. It's kind of we post it and we hope that something works right. With Handshake, we can do specific postings. So if we're looking for, let's say, a recent grad with 2 to 5 years experience within STEM, we can select 4 school groups that have a strong foundation in STEM education within a relocation area that their students will help go to, and then join us here in Providence. So again, it's thinking about taking a more strategic, data-driven approach to doing collegiate recruiting. And again, collegiate, we're thinking from 0 to 6 years. So we can start this as early as bringing student teachers in for their co-ops and internships, really getting exposure ahead of when they're actually graduating. So we're starting that process early on. Handshake also allows us to create an employer brand, which we're going through right now. We've been successful of hiring here in Providence. We're really kind of changing that to be a more recruiting model and really creating what that employer brand sounds, feels, and looks like for our new and upcoming unique external applicants, which is a strong turnaround goal in our turnaround plan. And this is really what Handshake will allow us to do, is again have that targeted approach to looking at where do we need to focus our efforts on. We're thinking about different regional areas within the United States where we can target it, and Handshake really kind of helps show that down for us while still allowing us to have the career events, whether we're hosting them virtually or in person. They help sponsor and promote them, and then also having our job posting as well with a little bit more targeted approach to just kind of that post and hope method. So what questions can I help answer?
Really quick, what's your job title, Jack?
Deputy Recruitment Manager.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Well, that's not all I wanted to know. I wanted to ask really quick. I know, right? I wanted to ask really quick. What makes this a sole source contract?
So Handshake is the only current collegiate-based application platform that offers the robust services that they do. So when we think about collegiate specifically, there's other platforms like Liquid Compass, Purple Briefcase, and then a few others. But they don't offer the full suite of benefits that Handshake does. So again, they have the market really secured, not only on posting the job. So they have probably about 1,500 college and universities that they use, but they go further than that. So they're creating that. When we think about the student engagement piece, the student is very protected. So Handshake ensures that when an employer is reaching out, that they're unique and authentic, and we actually receive an employer score for that, and it's a trust score. And we build that by building our brand out. We're constantly communicating, and then Handshake also continues with the career event piece. So this is more than just a job posting platform. It's really kind of building that brand and that full picture that we can provide to our future applicants and hopefully future employees as well.
And did Handshake, did they have like any other competitors that you've seen like similar to?
Not as a full suite of services. So we could purchase individual platforms that offer each of these individually, but not at the offerings that they have. I've used Liquid Compass before. I've used Purple Briefcase, and then a few other add-on services where you get the career events or you get the data and the insights. I've also used this full talent engagement suite with Handshake, and I can say that doing it kind of siloed and individually still does not meet the outcome that Handshake offers, especially in that 0 to 6 niche. And that's really where we'll see that success. So it's again bringing in those new college grads and helping them kind of matriculate from college and university to our, and then hopefully staying in throughout that duration.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, as a student at Western College, I used Handshake before. I used it to look for a job nearby, and also like the center, like the student development center at Western College, they encourage students once they graduate to download this app, so they can see our employer. I think this is a great tool for us to use.
Yeah, the alumni network. So again, alumni think 2 to 6 years post grad is about 4.5 million. And a lot of those alum are not using other job boards. They're not using Indeed or Monster or social. They're staying with Handshake because it's continuing their education base. So if they enter the whether for their master's or their doctorate, they can still utilize Handshake. So that's where they're getting their continued updates from and continued learning.
I can see that we're putting a big push on recruitment this year. I'm assuming that's because we've had historic, in the last year, a lot of like the Great Quit nationally. There's been a lot of departures. I know that we approved a LinkedIn contract last month, which is more targeted towards administrators, I believe.
Yes.
And this is different because it really targets those recent college graduates, which we haven't been able to attract. Are we also ensuring that we have the HR staff in-house to actually respond to all these queries? And
we are, yes. So we actually just welcomed a new team member on Monday.
Great.
As a talent sourcer. So we're growing our talent sourcing team, and that team will be dedicated to utilizing these handshakes, doing the sourcing of applicants through Handshake, through School Spring, and some of our other job boards that we have. And when I talk about sourcing, it's more about going out and really scraping their resumes from here, engaging in those initial conversations, and then keeping them and walking them through that process up until application and hire. So we do have that, and then we also have members of our internal PPSD staff called Campus Champions that will also be assisting in this and really kind of being the voice of the district and being brand ambassadors for us.
Great, wonderful answer.
Have we looked into like contracting with Indeed or no?
Well, it's a pain point for me right now.
Okay.
We're working on it. I started January 3rd, and I made my first call to Indeed on January 5th, and So, yeah.
We're trying, we want them to take us as a serious employer, and it's honestly, it's been a challenge, but we're getting
Yes.
close.
We're getting
We're
there.
not gonna lose this battle.
No.
No, because I see that we're trying to do a lot with.
Put that on the notes.
I see we're trying to do a lot with recruitment, and I know a lot of community members say, why don't the district look into like teaming up with Indeed? So just keep us updated.
Yes, and the real reason is we haven't historically used any type of social or job board postings. Again, we've been very internal with our hiring process. So like Gina said, we kind of have to be trusted as an employer that when we do post our jobs that we're being, equitable, ethical, and honest, that these are our jobs. So because we haven't really had that pattern of behavior yet, they're doing their own vetting process on us as well. So we're getting there. Like Gina said, we're not gonna win this one.
I think overall, if you could say, like, we're really trying to build the top of the funnel. Like, there's been no top of the recruitment funnel historically, and so we're trying to build that out so we can, like, move people down. And that's a lot of our focus this year is, like, how can we do more outreach to those external applicants and try to bring them in so we can recruit them in positions. In addition to, like, moving through with referrals and people that are here to try to, like, cultivate the talent that already is in Providence. We're trying to do a mixture of both to see, like, what works and what, like, can bring in more to the district.
And when I think is that funnel, if we break it up, so Handshake is that widest part, that 0 to 6. Indeed probably comes a little bit of that 5 to 7 years, and then LinkedIn is definitely more of our admin professional base. But that LinkedIn is the tie-in, which is why we went with that first to help build out that brand. But Handshake is that biggest part of that funnel.
Any other questions? No. I have a motion to approve.
Motion. A second.
Thank you. And then we have energy efficient investments.
Yes, good evening, everyone. South Carolina. So this contract or purchase is going to allow us to buy boilers and boiler work as part of our safe, warm, dry commitment to our schools. Contract is in the amount of $1,09,474.65, but it includes not just the equipment, but also the demolition of the existing boilers at Kazarian, Hopkins, and Nesser, and the replacement and purchase of new high energy efficient boilers for those schools. Happy to answer any questions that you may have. Not as entertaining as these other ones, but still important.
So are these boilers are currently non-functioning, or they're close to the end of their life?
Many of them are close to the end of their life, and we're looking to prevent boilers from not functioning while we have students. So now is the time to do it.
Great.
And
Well, I
we've
wanted to
done
hear.
In the middle of winter, they break.
Yeah, we've seen that.
Yes. Great question.
What questions do we have?
I know, I believe you probably wasn't here at the time. In the summertime, I think it was in June or July, we had a meeting about the boilers. And I believe we passed the budget with it. Is there any updates on the construction on them boilers, or this is the time where we wish Zach was here?
So I'm glad you asked that question. This is a scope of a larger work that has been conducted at the district level, right? So what you're probably referring to, even though I wasn't here, is a set of different schools that have already been taken care of in terms of replacing those boilers. So this is just the continuation of that work in the larger scope.
So have those.
And Molly can correct me if I'm wrong.
Molly,
Oh, gosh, boilers last summer doesn't sound familiar to me.
it doesn't. It was in like June or July.
Were we at Del Sesto?
Yes, we was.
About this.
I was trying to find it earlier today when I was looking at it also, but I couldn't find it. So, but I was going to ask, was it successful? Was those boilers successful that was implemented into those schools?
The ones I know,
Yeah, I mean, successful into respect that they were installed.
Installed,
Yeah,
yes, correct.
I believe all of those, that work has happened. They are operating appropriately.
yes.
Okay.
Wow,
That's all right.
exceptional memory, Tyrell.
I
Shout
know.
out to you. Absolutely.
I want to make sure my kids are warm.
Good. So last year, it was, yes, you're exactly right. So last summer in July, It was boilers at Young Woods.
Yeah.
And Barton Gregorian,
Mhm.
it looks like. Those were full replacements. It was about $1.3 million, it looks like.
And those are fully operational,
Okay.
in great condition, high energy efficient. We've done work with energy efficient investments in other areas of our district, and they have been very satisfactory. So
Keep the trend going, I guess, huh?
Yeah, they actually did the boilers at Young Woods and Barton Gregorian last summer.
Thank you, Molly.
I remember there was no heat for a while, but the heat's back.
that's what we're trying to avoid.
At Gregorian, at least.
Yeah.
Any further questions by school board members? We have a motion to approve.
Motion. I'll second.
Okay. I think that is the end of the contracts. We will go back to item number 7, the budget update. And we didn't receive a attachment of the presentation, so I'm assuming it'll be attached later.
Yeah, well, I believe we'll attach it for the full board meeting
Okay.
next week.
Wow, want to keep everybody here for a budget presentation? This is great. Usually we clear the room.
Today, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Chris, I love you.
Yeah, I know I cleared the room.
You're all running home.
This is out?
That's why I said, let's put it at the end. Everybody go home.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Anytime. Thank you. Thank you.
Wouldn't miss it for the world.
Oh,
No.
everybody can bring it home if they can't sleep tonight.
Yeah, I did. I got a sunstroke. It's okay. So good evening, everyone. So we just want to. Usually Zach's on vacation, so I've been tasked with present an overview of FY23. So usually give an update to the board in April. So that's where we are this evening. We have preliminary revenue numbers and preliminary expenditure numbers for the district. We'll come back to the board in May with hopefully final numbers, and then again in June with ESSER numbers. But we'll propose in the May meeting with our compensation, appropriation, classification ordinances. Okay. So just out of context, roughly our budget grows by 2.5% over the last 4 years, with state aid making up about 65% of our revenue numbers. So part of our turnaround action plan, our investments and decisions in the context of COVID-19, the need for learning and accelerations, 3 pillars on the turnaround action plan are excellence in learning, world-class talent, and engaged communities. So we must ensure investments are aligned with and recognize what the unprecedented needs of our students and schools, and effectively balance short, medium, and long-term financial outlooks. Meaning we want to try to leverage all of the great funding of stimulus dollars that we're receiving now to set us up for success in the future, and not, overburden ourselves with overextending ourselves in the budget process for FY23, and kind of using those ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 dollars. Hence, ramping up all of those HR expenditures that you guys just approved, and setting ourselves up for great talent in the future. So that's what's on page 6 on the right-hand side. Leverage local funds to make core long-term investments align with the TAP. Focus stimulus funds to support short and medium-term learning acceleration efforts, and all are critical to ensure investments are mutually reinforcing, that our LEAP spending can enhance our accelerated long-term investments for our students. So online curricula that we approved for science, we did ELA and math earlier, and hopefully we'll go through history and civics, in 24, possibly even 23. page 7, which talks about the key investments that we have made over the past 2 years. We added 32 additional literacy and math coaches at the middle and high schools, 18 additional guidance counselors at the elementary schools. We have unified elementary curricula for math and ELA, and we unified secondary curricula for ELA and math. On the world-class talent, we added 9 additional assistant principals. In FY22, we added 4 days in the beginning of the school year for professional development for the teachers. And we added signing bonuses to attract new teachers. And we also increased the pay rates for substitute teachers as well. Yeah. On the engaged communities, we added 26 community school specialists and culture coordinators. We increased translation services. And we've taken on a few projects to digitize our student records office, and we're also going to be focusing on digitizing our special education folders as well. That's student folders.
Oh, really quick, are we at a good number for the community specialists and culture coordinators? Like, do the schools feel comfortable with them? Do you think we're at like a good number?
That I cannot answer. I mean, whatever we honor their requests. If they feel as though that they needed additional ones,
Okay.
we've been honoring those requests.
For example, at Mount,
They're up to 6.
yeah, we add 2 good.
Okay.
So there's been some movements.
I'm very happy with that.
Absolutely.
I hope it works out.
So
This person is.
we've been honoring any request for additional culture coordinators, community specialists, whether they want to fund them through their ESSER funds or a combination of Title I funds. And to Sue's point, we've added some to the Mount Pleasant as well.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. So part of our budget surplus last year, we put funds into a capital reserve account, which you'll see on the bottom of page 7, and the city committed to add $3 million as well. So bringing us to about $8 million of seed money in our capital reserve account, which would produce about $50 million of work over the next 10 years. So those funds will keep reseeding and revolving into that fund. Okay.
This is a new fund, correct?
Yeah.
That was not in existence before, and that's to do any kind of capital project in
Yep. So
PBSD.
correct. And on a building that's reimbursable through the state, whether it's so some projects are even 98 if they're energy efficient, or 92%. 91%.
This is where the boiler work is.
So if we spend $1, we get 91 cents left.
This boiler work is
Yes.
also happening from that capital revolving fund.
8 million turns to 50 million.
It was a no-brainer.
Wow.
It was a no-brainer. So we're trying to
And that's something you guys created, or that's something?
Well,
I don't want to say we. Sure, I did
Take
that.
it,
No,
take it.
no, it's
Historic- yeah.
Okay.
Historically, that we never had the seed money, or the city never gave us the seed money to invest in. Because they always passed the $300 million of bond, and you couldn't double dip if you were receiving PBA money for those investments in the bonds. So this is separate and apart from those, that the district is able to seed the money with the help of some funds from the city as well. But there needs to be a plan, a proactive plan. It can't be reactive. So that's why you'll see the replacement cycle for the boilers, for water tanks, for roofs, so on and so forth. So we've been reactive, not proactive. And those replacements, if I understand it correctly, if they're reactive and they're not part of a whole plan, they weren't reimbursable. Now that we're on a plan that we have a replacement cycle, they're approved by the folks at RIDE and the state team, and they're reimbursable. So
And they're under a certain category as well, like, life and safety, teaching and learning.
student-centered learning environments.
And And this is the school building authority that is
Yes.
vetting these and creating these proactive plans so that we can get this reimbursed.
They are involved in some of that, but it's mostly like city and
Okay.
district.
So some initiatives that we've set forth, we paid for last year, and part of this year is, we purchased over 10,000 new furniture for elementary, middle, and high schools, 450 new classroom rugs at the elementary level, at least 1,600 laptops for staff, and over 20,000 Chromebooks for our students. And I think that 200 smart board number is understated, but it's at least that for our classrooms. Again, purchasing PPE and health-related supplies, to have us open successfully. So now for the fun part, we'll jump into where we are for FY23 preliminary numbers. So just as a quick overview, how state aid is derived is it takes your random average daily attendance and multiplies it by your core investment factors. There's other factors that go on to it. It's called a success factor, which adds up to your poverty rate for your students, and it adds an extra 40 cents per dollar for those students that qualify. So in recent years, the state funding formula has slowed down, and we're seeing it slow down because of drops of enrollment. So if it's dollars follow students, if our enrollment's dropping, our revenue is dropping. So it's an issue because our expenditures keep growing at a rate of 2%, 3%. So our standalone costs are $6 million, if you will. So if our enrollment keeps dropping, we have to keep making reductions with our classroom teachers, buses, so on and so forth. We might look at our district footprint later on in the future to see where we're inefficient and where we can look to consolidate if we see a continued reduction in enrollment. So what the governor proposed for FY23, he will show in the next slide, is that he proposed a hold harmless in the revenue. So we would have seen at least a $12 to $15 million reduction in revenue if he didn't put this hold harmless clause in there to districts. So it's essentially what we received for revenue in FY23. We're about to see the same state aid. And so we're under the Crowley Act. So any increase of educational aid that the state gives, the city has to appropriate the same dollar amount, same percentage increase to the school department. So that's the bulk of our revenue. The other small percentage is about 2%. It makes up miscellaneous revenue, which is indirect costs and Medicaid revenue that we have. Key drivers to our expenditures are obviously salaries and benefits. The CBAs and salaries make up about 50% of our projected expenditures. Benefits is about 25%. Key service contracts with first students, RIPTA, custodial facilities, about 8%, and special ed students going to outplaced with districts, 4%. We add all those up, it's about 87% of our budget on the local side, and those key categories.
The Medicaid that you mentioned, are we using Medicaid to fund the counselors and
So we take that. So it helps.
Clinics?
No, not the smart clinics. It's any provider that provides service that it's reimbursable to the federal government. So we budget about $4.4 million on the revenue side to help balance our expenditures for Medicaid. Okay. So on those smart clinics, they are not our employees. They cannot. They're not service providers, if you will, so they can't bill on behalf of the school department.
So they're sort of independent in how they do their billing. And
so I don't know if
they don't have a line item here because they're not funded through our district.
Correct. So we're talking about social workers, speech pathologists, guidance counselors, teacher assistants, anybody that provides a service to a student that's reimbursable.
I'm surprised that none of that is billed through Medicaid, because you would think that a lot of the kids are Medicaid eligible.
We do. Oh, you're
We
saying
do
the
bill
smart,
Medicaid.
yeah, we do.
For
You said
for
the smart
social
clinic.
worker services.
Yes,
things like
correct.
that. Okay.
Yep.
And we bill it under that individual that is receiving the services.
Correct. So
Child.
so if a
Okay.
guidance counselor picks up the phone and talks about to the parent about what happened with little Johnny today, that's reimbursable.
Got it.
To the,
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. So page 10 is what I briefly discussed earlier. It takes a look at our revenue side. So if you see FY22 is about $273 million in state aid, we're roughly projecting the same for FY23 under the governor's budget. So just a reduction of about $24,000 in slight changes. Large increases, we're anticipating is $3 million increase from the city under the Crowley Act that we talked about. So it gives us a total projected revenue of about $423 million compared to $420 in the current fiscal year.
So just, sorry, the 24,000 density aid, which is in red here, for change, that's what we've lost due to enrollment going down.
Yeah, so that's a calculation based on the number of your students that go to charter schools. They implemented that in FY22. So I think it's the state gives you I want to say it's $100 per student, new student or existing student that's going to a charter school. So that number is projected to reduce, or is it the rate per student that they're giving us? That could be it. I'm trying to remember what the statute says. The rate might be reducing. It might be 100. It might be $100 in FY22. It might be reducing by a certain percentage in FY23. I can't remember. Any other questions on the revenue side?
No, I'll put a bookmark in that for next meeting.
Yeah. I can't remember. So slide 11, it looks at our FY20 through FY22 revenues and expenditures. So obviously we are balanced for $420 million of expenditures, $420 million of revenue. So if we look at our projected expenditures and revenues for FY23, we have projected revenues of $423 million, but expenditures at $432 million. So hence about $8.9 million gap. Okay. So slide 12 gives a little purview of how we anticipate on how to reduce that gap. So if we look at our starting gap of about $8.9 million, I know that says the B and FO, but I think that's supposed to say Forts Elementary School. So William Debate will be on the construction renovation, so we don't anticipate any utility costs there, and we won't have any classrooms in Forts Elementary next year. So we're anticipating about $350,000 in utility savings from those two schools. We're still in talks with the city about medical rates for the upcoming year and city pension obligations. Our preliminary numbers, could be a little high, but we think that we can shave probably about $700,000 off our, first pass at these numbers. We're also projecting we can add about $750,000 to our salary attrition line. So a salary attrition line is we calculate if a teacher retires on step 12, we hire them at step 3. There's that little attrition number there, plus X amount of vacancies that we have that could be unfilled. Obviously, we plan on filling all those positions, but obviously, we'll be realistic that we know we're not going to fill 100% of our vacancies. So we're thinking that we could add probably $750,000 to that number, which would reduce our expenditures. Okay. We're also anticipating on shifting about $1 million of positions that are currently in local or proposed new positions to either IDEA or ESSER funds. There's a new ARP IDA funds that was part of the Congress passed for stimulus dollars. So we're seeing, we saw some new dollars there. But putting those budgets together, I think we received about $3.6 million of new ARP money. Currently we have funds budgeted for ESY programs and summer learning initiatives. We know that we can extract those numbers from the local budget and put them to either ESSER 2 or ESSER 3 dollars, knowing that they probably would have to go back into the local budget at some point in time. So, that's why we're trying to make informed decisions, but not set us up for failure in the future. With our reduced enrollment, we think we can shave about 5 buses, so it'll be $400,000, which still leaves us about a $4 million gap. So that's where you see the $4.2 million of potential fund balance transfer that we would either come from surpluses in FY22 or any surpluses that we ran in previous years.
Are those the yellow buses you were talking
For
about?
student, yeah. We're seeing a reduction in elementary students, so we could tighten up some of the runs.
Are we expecting any savings in Aramark related to all we approved a pretty large Aramark contract for COVID safety measures and
Right. So those additional cleaning measures are funded through ESSER 2 and ESSER 3. So it really won't impact any savings to the local side of the house. So we will just see what we have for budget line items in ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 for enhanced cleaning. That contract expires in November
2023.
So we'll be bringing on a consultant at some point September to help us revisit the Aramark's contract and write the scope of the work that we want to see, and they'll help us evaluate the contract going forward.
Can you explain a little bit more with the benefit reductions?
So we're self-insured. The city is self-insured for medical, dental insurance. So right now the city is working with their consultant Mercer to go over working rates for FY23. So we're at the city's mercy of telling us how much we have to contribute to the city's medical plan. We have a projected number that we calculated earlier on in the budget season. Obviously, as we get closer to the fiscal year, the city tightens up their numbers. They calculate how many people are in, which is called a medical fund, how many claims that they have, how much money that they would see in future claims. They're working with their actuarials. So those, hopefully, we'll see some savings, if you will, that could help offset, our expenditures. Because the city tells us what we have to fund to their medical fund.
healthcare costs have been going up. So this might be ambitious to think that we're going to.
So them being self-insured, we know that there hasn't been as many claims, right? So if there was less claims in FY21 and FY22, there's a surplus in that medical fund. So it's whether or not the school department is going to realize some of those savings that the city has.
Got it. All right.
Blue Cross just manages the plan,
Mm-hmm.
but the city pays the claims.
Be happy to give both of you a talk about being self-insured. I want to hear about it because it's complicated.
To say the least. You have to pay somebody to manage the claims.
Our large medical group is also self-insured. So.
Something that I think I want to explore whether it's
Worth it.
You're right. I don't know. You know, and if we ever pull away from the city, and we pull out of that group, is it worth us going on our own? And I don't know. But I think it's
It's a
something
lot
that,
of administrative burden in managing a self-insured plan.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You need medical experts to help with
And that's where this,
pricing and- yeah.
and I think that's where the city has the actuary consultant, Mercer, that helps them guide them through that. But it's complicated, as you know. And throw retirees in the mix,
Right. Right.
just not active, it's retirees as well. Yeah. And then, you know, part of that is, you know, they gave us preliminary rates of what they need to fund the pension, city pension, because we're part of our non-certified employees are part of the city pension. All your certified employees, your principals, your teachers, Dr. Martinez earned the state system. Myself, Molly, we're in the city system. So the city is trying to pass their, $500 million bond to help try to save the city's pension system. We're hopeful that we can recognize some of those savings in either for 23 or in future years. So they're about $1 billion underfunded.
How's that going?
How's the campaign going on the city
Yes.
side? I can't answer that.
Okay.
I think, personally, it might be the only way out for the city to fund the pension system. They can't file bankruptcy. They own too many assets. I don't think they're going to get approval to, personally, to sell the water boards. I mean, that's been talked about for years. I don't think that they would. It's a revenue generator, and they need. Why would you sell one of your biggest revenue generators? Plus, they need approval from the General Assembly to sell that asset. I don't think it'll ever be approved. So I think this pension obligation bond is the only way out to save the system.
Absolutely.
They're large numbers. You can't tax your way out of something like that. That's only one piece, and the post-benefit portion, like we were talking earlier, with the retirees is another $1 billion. So they're $2 billion underfunded. What a B, billion. No, no, and then going back to the HR side, you want to try to attract people to you. You're going to come to work for somebody that's, will I have retirement after so many years of work? Will my pension be there or not? So, if this gets straightened out, I think it's a win for everyone. Attracting good talent here. So, yeah, but it's just not. We're not just hurting on the teacher side. I mean, we're hurting teacher assistants, bus monitors, crossing guards, business exec. We have five.
We're hiring sign.
We have five vacancies in finance. And.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, Jackie was talking about that top layer. We're looking for entry level budget people, budget coins, recent college graduates. We can't, if we're not on those job boards for your Brian, your URI, your Babson, your Bentley, they're not going to Indeed to looking for an entry level budget coordinator job or budget analyst job. So it's important for us to be on those websites to attract those students. So it's just not at the teaching level. I mean, we're struggling all over to help us. So I mean, that's my milk crate, just my soapbox, I guess.
That's all right.
And page 13 just goes talks about some of the budget details and our short-term and long-term impacts. Like I said earlier, we're hoping that the assembly passes the governor's budget and his recommendations. If they don't, we're in a little bit of deep doo-doo, if you will. And I think every single district is as well. So I think it's in the assembly's best interest to pass the budget, the governor's proposal, and help these districts out, because everybody, there's a 4% decline in enrollment statewide. So, Yeah, and we were probably over the average,
Nationwide. we're
Yeah.
seeing-
and we were about 4.2.
School enrollment.
Yeah, and we were probably about 4.2%, so we were a little slightly higher than the average. Obviously, because we're larger, but the dollars follow the kids. It's a big revenue reductions for us, and we can't cut as fast as we've seen these, our students leave.
Yeah, we have to make those families happy.
Right? Absolutely.
So true.
So we just talked about our fringe benefits, final medical and pension benefits, that may impact our planned expenditures. The funding formula that we talked about, that the dollars follow the kids. And we're still in discussions with the city about the revenue contributions on the Crowley Act. I'm not touching that one. And key cost drivers: transportation, service contracts, staffing, special education, and district footprint, like we talked about earlier. It's probably going to be in our best interest that we're going to put out a mini RFP to bring on a financial consultant to help us address, some of the stuff in this last bullet, to look at our big spending areas. So we can have somebody validate what we're saying, and I think it'll be helpful to us, not only to plan long term as well. So we're going to hit a sharp cliff in everybody is 24, 25. So we have to make we stop being proactive, making the decisions now. It doesn't make them more difficult in the future. However, we have a district to turn around as well, so it's not easy decisions.
Absolutely not.
Page 14 is just some action items and timeline that we'll be bringing to the board. So we'll give this presentation to the board. We'll come back in May with our ordinances, potentially a full budget book. We'll have a meeting in June to discuss the budget with the council. Our CRP, a consolidated resource plan, which is our Title I, Title II, IDA funds, Title III, we submitted to RIDE for preliminary approval for our expenditures, and hopefully we'll have an approved budget in July, for local budget July. The commission will approve our spending plan.
Great. Yeah.
Questions? I know I talked a lot. Molly's laughing.
You've got to, be optimistic about this process. If we could email the other board members so they have a version of this, I think that would be really helpful.
Absolutely.
And thanks for the detailed overview.
Yeah, it's
really helpful, and I really encourage the new members also if you want to meet with Chris or Zach separately, because there's a lot to understand here, and that helped me when I did it a couple years ago. Yeah,
it's budgeting is an art. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot detail behind this $423 million. A lot of detail behind it. So the more that you're informed, I can help you understand the expenditures and where our money's being spent. The better informed that we all are. I think it makes life easier too, passing these contracts as well, if you understand where the dollars are coming from. It's good.
And Chris, this is all district budget, but we're going to hear kind of piecemeal about ESSER funds being used.
So on the calendar here, there's I think it's June that there'll be a presentation for ESSER 3 funds.
Has there been any raises in any salaries or anything like that? Because I know last year Nina requested that the district, Nina Pondit, former vice president, requested that we do the presentation. I believe that Harrison and them did, and Zach, on all of the salaries. Is there
salaries as far as we're locked? So we have so the ordinances will be proposed in May.
Mm-hmm.
So we're locked into the teachers CBA for FY23. We are in negotiations with 1033 and 1339 for the new CBAs. At 1033 expires June 30th, 1339 expires August 31st. So right now we started preliminary negotiations of what their salary increases would be.
Okay, and then would you guys prepare that presentation for the full board?
Well, yes, but we don't want to put together a presentation
To
of
ask them.
to say, hey, we're proposing X percentage for 1033 when we're still negotiating.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So it's it's a little tightrope that we have, how much information that but we all know what the CBA is for PTU is for the first day of school, and those numbers are in our proposed budget along with what we think we're going to settle for 1033 and 1339. So those are in there. So I'm not quite sure. Was it that they gave what dollar amount of the local budget went to each bargaining unit?
Do you remember?
We had an Excel document that showed all
Yes.
the new position created in the district, like, offices and salaries.
Yes, I can send it to you so you can get it. I'll just send it to you, and then after.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just one of the if it's
That's
but it had salaries attached to it
did.
per department.
Yes. Was it per department? I believe it just had a long list of
It
all
was
of them.
just a
I'll
long
send them
list.
over to
So
you.
that's a compensation ordinance
Mhm.
that we'll be proposing to you in May.
Oh, see, okay.
That'll have the list of titles, salary ranges for every single position that's in the district.
Absolutely.
Okay. It's not separated by bargaining unit, if you will, because some of the titles of positions are in 1033, but it does outline teachers and teacher assistants and clerical support what their base salaries are.
Absolutely. I know Molly probably wants to leave, so.
I've been here all night.
Any other questions for Chris?
All right.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate
No
it.
problem at all.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion. Second.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
So our next meeting is going to be Wednesday, May 11th at 5:30. I've already working on folks for contracts, so you'll hear from me or Alan about that. But tentatively, that's the Wednesday, May 11th,
I
5:30
can't
p.m.
make it. No, I'm playing. I'll be there.
Better be here. Yeah, so it'll probably be a pretty full agenda with contracts in May as we look towards July 1 and then start school in September.
Absolutely.
I need to make sure Dean is there on that day because I'm flying out to give a talk.
Well, if we gotta look at, I think we have to look at our retreat, so we can see, so we can make sure we probably have another co-chair, just in case you're not there.
Yeah,
We'll
we'll have to make
discuss
sure
that.
Dean is here.
All right. Oh, we can do
Right.
that.
Superintendent for attending, congratulations on your new contract.
Yes,
That's
congratulations.
amazing.
We're gonna keep doing the work.
Keep doing the work.
That's it.
Keep on moving. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris.
everybody.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
That was Lindsay, and she's helping with.
Sure, why not?
Yes.
Yes, and get her and I will introduce.
Any finance stuff, if you have finance questions, Al and I are gonna tag team those. We're like figuring it out a little bit, but if they're like, we don't get documents, questions about when we're meeting, one of the two of us can help with finance.
Yeah, I caught a missing attachment last month, but got it to Rachel before we had the meeting, but I missed this one.
Bother
So
me
I'm
about
gonna-
all that. I wanna know
I'm
about
gonna make
those,
sure
so we
that I
get them
look as
right.
soon as it's posted,
Yeah.
because sometimes I don't get to it until right before.
All right. I think I have. Oh, yeah, I have your email. You're in the system. I'll just.
Alright,
nice spot.
I-
Yeah. So I'll just email you. Just. Yeah. This way you have it.